I'm OKC, I'm happy. None of the other teams made a big move.
I will never forgive the LA Clippers.
Sacramento Kings. What the are you guys doing?
Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a great day, and welcome to the first ever and inaugural episode of the Point of Attack podcast. I'm your host, Evan, and this is my co-host, Arjun, and here to talk to you about hoops, sports, and anything of the sorts, just anything that comes to our mind, but mostly basketball, because that's kind of our specialty, I'd say.
Yeah, we're just two guys who enjoy talking about basketball, and yeah, we're just turning it into a podcast now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, with the amount of conversations we have just about ball, I'm kind of shocked it took us so long to do this.
Yeah,
so.
I'm shocked it took us this long,
but
I'm excited. It'll be fun.
But in the first episode, we just want to go over the 2026 NBA trade deadline. Going into the deadline, there were obviously a lot of speculations, biggest being Giannis Antetokounmpo. Will he want out of Milwaukee, and what would that look like?
Yeah.
John Horst, the Bucks GM, spent a lot of time saying that he just simply, if he were to trade Giannis, it was going to be an arm and a leg. A team would pretty much have to be gutted, so that kind of deteriorated a lot of offers. But obviously, the biggest names linked to it were the Knicks, and if I'm not mistaken, sometimes the Sixers. The Mavs were in there for a little bit. The Warriors were in there. Minnesota made a last-minute push. But overall, I want to hear.
I saw the Knicks, the Heat, the Wolves, and the Warriors
Right.
as the four big names that consistently came up in trade talks.
I forgot about the Heat, and then I know the Raptors dangled their name in there, but I remember reports came out. They were like, they weren't that serious, apparently. Like, they were interested, but they weren't like, oh, we'll get. Like, it was like RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, and a couple picks. It wasn't going to be nothing spectacular from Toronto. But anyway, I just want to get, what would you say is your overall review of the deadline?
I thought it was a fun deadline. A lot of movement between players. I think that there was a number that came out that it was over 40 players are now rocking with a different team than they were even just a couple of days ago. And I remember on Wednesday, there were just a lot of moves that were happening. Just sheer volume of moves was a lot higher in this year's trade deadline than it has been previously.
Yeah, I'd say especially, we're both on NBA Twitter. Everybody likes to bully Shams just because obviously the Giannis stuff going on, but especially since last offseason when he went in there saying it's going to be the craziest offseason ever. And just, it was kind of hard as an NBA fan. Obviously, the Mavs trading Luka being the big headliner, but that trade deadline was probably one of the craziest trade deadlines in NBA history.
Yeah. Yes. Even outside of the Luka trade, Jimmy Butler going to the Warriors was a big move.
Wemby got his running mate potentially in De'Aaron Fox for a time.
De'Aaron Fox went to the Spurs.
For some reason.
A lot more of the bigger trades happened. Yeah. Bigger players got moved. And although we had a couple of those kinds of moves this trade with Anthony Davis and Trae Young, those were definitely muted and less in comparison to last year's deadline.
I just feel like if I had to give it a grade, I'd say it was probably a B-, C+. And the reason I say that is because you kind of got everything you wanted in terms of trade deadline. You had the shock and awe trades, like Jaren Jackson Jr. Even though people were talking about Memphis moving him and them blowing it up, I didn't think it was going to happen just in a flash. Mm-hmm. I remember a family friend texted me that Jaren was getting moved to Utah. First of all, I was shocked it was Utah. Second of all, the fact that it just kind of happened there, and he got moved before Ja Morant. That shocked me. More on that later. But I would say a C+, maybe a B- would be my overall grade for it.
Yeah, I'd say a B. I liked the deadline. I also like the way the NBA is sort of moving and how teams are constructing themselves, where they're relying on growing the talent more than they are sort of trading for big name players. We kind of came into this trade deadline thinking Trey Murphy III was going to get traded for 3 first-round picks, and he was going to immediately make a team better, and that did not happen. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. I like that this deadline had a lot more movements in terms of smaller deals, but, we saw a lot of trades involving second-round picks and, cutting costs, getting cash. So I think it's a different side to the NBA, but it's definitely very interesting, and I'm open to it.
The last thing I'll say before we head out to our next segment is something you said about you kind of saw teams moving differently. with how Utah and DC are moving, and just even with teams like OKC, I feel like the way you need to build teams is just so fundamentally different because you have teams like the Jazz and the Wizards, more so the Jazz and the Wizards, because they're a lot further in the rebuild than the Wizards. And by that, I mean, yes, the Wizards have bigger names, but in terms of a cohesive basketball unit and like style of play, I think the Jazz are more so there, especially because they play in like a more difficult conference.
Oh yeah, 100%.
For sure, they're in the West. But I just feel like you kind of have to really, really monitor how you're building a team. Like you can't just throw contracts here and there. And Utah kind of did right and played the long game. We'll talk more about that later, obviously, but they did well at knowing when to sell high on certain assets, when to flip their guys. Like, what was it, Walter Clayton Jr. and a couple guys? They knew when to flip those guys and to actually make a move that could improve them now and further on, because now they are going to be semi-competitive next year. Obviously, they're probably not going to be like, they may still not make the playoffs next year. It's not because they're not good, but just the West is so stacked. But they actually have, in my opinion, for the first time since Donovan Mitchell's left, a path back to playing competitive basketball that can have some meaning, rather than we're going to play for 3 quarters and then we're going to sub out half our players so we can tank and get a top 5 pick next year. So
Yeah, I'm extremely happy to see Utah being relevant again. Detroit is the number 1 team in the East right now, and that's also been really fun to watch. They also got a pretty good pickup in Herder, in my opinion. And Washington, I like seeing Washington be relevant. It's been a while, 2017, I'd say, right?
Yeah,
the last time that team was.
Was that the year Beal averaged 30?
Yeah, that was the year. I think that was the year Beal averaged 30.
I think so. I don't know, but
Wall and Beal, the years of Wall and Beal. It's been a while for Washington, so I'm happy to see them. Orlando is good. Although I don't really like Orlando very much.
I'm about to say, are they?
I don't really like Orlando very much, but maybe that's for a different episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so the biggest thing we wanted to kind of go into was, Arjun, you're going to give me your 3 biggest winners and losers of the NBA trade deadline. So let's start with the winners. So who are your biggest winners this year?
Yeah, so my 3 biggest winners for this year's trade deadline are the Hornets. This is also in no particular order. I've just picked 3. But my 3 big winners in no particular order are the Hornets. Oh shit, I low-key forgot. My 3 biggest winners for the NBA trade deadline this season, in no particular order, are the Washington Wizards, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Charlotte Hornets. And my honorable mention is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, so I'm going to kind of jump in on those, talk about each of them. The Wizards, you got Trae Young, Anthony Davis, gave up very little. You kept most of your young core, and you're going to get another top pick this year. I think you guys are in an extremely good spot. If I'm a fan of the Washington Wizards, I'm excited about what this team is going to do. So, A+. Love what Washington did. LA, you sold high on Zubac, who, in my opinion, he was a good player for his career and has become a great player in the last year. I think for the Pacers, it's a good move to pick him up. I think he'll be good with Halliburton, but it is a gamble. You've given up 2 first-round picks, and if the Pacers take their pick this year, then they give up a 2031 unprotected. And who the hell knows what's going to happen in 2031? You know what I'm saying? So I honestly, also with like smaller teams, in my opinion, or smaller markets, right? The Pacers, I'm not sure if they're going to be good in 2031, in 2029. Those are the picks that they gave up. So I think for LA, it's a good move because look, you got Darius Garland in that James Harden swap, 26-year-old, 10 years younger than Harden is now, all-star. You also went and got Benedict Mathurin, who's also a young guard. You can have those, add them to your core, let him hoop, and you got a couple of good picks. I don't know. If I'm LA, I'm chilling. And
you can probably pay him too, because Kawhi is probably getting traded this summer.
Yeah, and Kawhi's probably going to be on his way out. He's still playing really good ball. He's still unguardable. So if I'm LA, I'll probably trade him as well in the offseason, help trade him to a contender, get some more picks. And I'd be really happy with that because then, you still get people in your doors. you still got guys that people are gonna really like and want to watch hoop.
Yeah.
I will say I know Zubac was a very important piece for LA in terms of like personnel. Like he was a really
Fan
big,
favorite almost.
yeah, not just a fan favorite, organization favorite,
For sure,
So
for
I
sure.
think for them it might be tough in that respect. And I know Zubac also just had a kid, so
He
I
did?
know, yeah, I think he just had it.
I
I
did
think
not
he
know
just
that.
had a kid, like only a few days ago. So I know it's gonna be a little rocky, kind of figuring it out. But I think LA is in better hands now. I think they're heading to the right place. On that note, I want to say the Thunder are my honorable mention. I'm going to mention them before the Hornets, but I think it's because they got Jared McCain, and people might say, listen, it's an overpay, and it is. But if you have as many assets as the Thunder do, it is okay to overpay. So I'm okay with this, and I also think there are two other reasons that the Thunder are really good. None of the other top teams made big moves or improved in any significant way. The
That's
Spurs
true.
didn't do anything. The Nuggets did something really minute.
What'd they do?
I honestly forgot. Actually, we can talk. They're not on our list. Okay, the Nuggets are not on our list for winners. Okay, the Rockets didn't do anything. Honest. And after the Steven Adams injury, they've like gotten worse, obviously. So yeah, if I'm Thunder, I'm chilling. Detroit didn't do enough. I think Detroit could have done more, but if I'm OKC, I'm happy. None of the other teams made a big move, and the Clippers have now committed to tanking, which means their pick is going to be valuable, which means you are now going to get a top 10 pick. Before it was like 11 to 15. Now it's easily going to be a top 10 pick.
I will never forgive the LA Clippers for the shit.
This is James Harden's fault.
No, it's not his fault. No, he was helping. He was trying to save them. Remember, beginning of the year, they were losing games. He was the only consistently good part about them. And
but then he decided to give up. Okay, we do not rock with James Harden.
Hey, James Harden saw that playoff streak in jeopardy. Said, "I'm out."
And yeah, so my last winner are the Hornets. I think the Hornets made some good moves. They're playing some good ball. I think everything's coming together. If I'm a Charlotte fan, I'm happy. I'm going to the games. We went to the Hornets Mavs game a couple weeks ago.
That was a
Dallas.
good game.
Really good game. Brandon Miller is that guy. Khan is fun to watch. LaMelo.
He showed up when he needed to.
Yeah, it was just fun. And, you got off Colin Sexton. You got a guy in Kobe White. He was a fan favorite in Chicago. I'm happy. If I'm Charlotte, I'm happy. And if I'm Charlotte fans, I'm watching this team. I'm getting on my TV and I'm watching them play.
I got a couple friends from that area, that as well as DC, funny enough. And just from talking to a couple of them, they have just said there's a lot more enjoyment, at least in Hornets basketball, because like in the immediate I just saw some on Twitter. They're currently the 10th seed in the East at the time of this recording. So like and I know you said you got them making the play-in, right?
I think they'll make the playoffs. That's my hot take. I'll talk about it more later. I think they're gonna make the playoffs this year.
That's doable.
I think it's gonna happen. They're on a 6-game win streak.
I think it's 8.
8-game win streak, something crazy. They're playing right now. Actually, I think they're up against the Hawks. Maybe
we'll know at the end of this.
We'll know at the end of recording. But yeah, I just think they're playing some good ball. They're fun to watch. And they're making some good moves. They're getting some guys in there.
Yeah.
Overall, I'm happy with them. But yeah.
Yeah, no.
How about you? What are your 3 winners?
So my 3 winners.
We also picked different winners because we wanted to highlight more teams.
We did. I think we have like one.
We have a couple overlaps,
but for the most part, yeah. So in this order, my first is my honorable mention. I have the Indiana Pacers. To me, I just felt like you're a team that, like, besides obviously coming into the season, we knew they were going to be a shell of themselves with the combination of you've lost Miles Turner in free agency to the Bucks. You have lost your star player in Tyrese Halliburton, and who is your point guard. He's the engine in that offense, funny enough. Like, I know everyone talked about them like they're a super fast car, but like he literally controls the tempo of that whole team. And as great as they are, they need him to really be maximized, and that's just been seen. So their ability to, first of all, hats off to their front office. Getting a guy like Zubac for how you did it was very impressive to me. What was it? 2031 first, and then this year's 2026 first, which is probably going to be, I'm not going to say probably, it is going to be a top 10 pick. But if I'm not mistaken, it was like protected from 1 to 4 and from 10 to 30, which I've just never really known you could do that with a pick in correct me if I'm wrong, that pretty much just means unless that pick is 5 to 9, Indiana keeps that pick. So there's a very good chance that you get Zubac and Hallie together next season, which is a great duo in itself. And then you get to slot in whoever you draft with the potential top 5 pick. Like that to me is such an upgrade, especially because Zubac, he was a decent center always, but I think he really just became who he's known as today when James Harden got there, an elite passer. And Tyrese Halliburton is the like last pure point guard in the NBA. I feel like arguably like he's one of the last few who his primary job is to be the assist leader, is to run the offense and then score. So I just think getting him for when you did and how you did was just super helpful and super impactful. You didn't need to do it. And as a Mavericks fan, I was very upset. I remember I called you and I was like, I was so pissed because I was hoping that it fell through because they wanted Daniel Gafford. And I was like, as much as I love Daniel Gafford, we need draft picks right now if you're Dallas. So I was kind of hoping it happened, but it didn't go that way. But the Indiana Pacers, just hats off to them and their entire front office. That was just a very good deal. Then in third place, just for my winners, I have the Boston Celtics. You get off Anthony Simons' contract, who was playing well for you, and flip him for Nikola Vucevic, which is just a great trade, I feel like, for both parties. Even though, well, I'm not going to say for both parties. It's a great trade for Chicago in the sense that you get an expiring contract and you get some more cap space. We can talk later about how for some reason they just have a whole bunch of guards on their roster.
Yeah, it's actually unbelievable.
But in terms of Boston, you in a down year are the 2 seed in the West, I believe. In the East. They may be the 3. I know that it's kind of shakes every day, but you, regardless, have home court in the playoffs right now if the season ends today.
Yes.
And that's without Jason Tatum playing a single game. That's without half your team that was a championship caliber team 2 years ago. That is just an upgrade to get a guy like Vucevic, who's having a great season. I believe he's shooting well. He's actually playing decent defensively, too, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. I just think that's a great move because their biggest flaw was a center. And Nemes Keita is good, but he's not starting caliber center good, respectfully to him. And I like Luka Garza, but they needed like one guy where it's like, hey, we need you to be on the floor with Jason and Jalen as most of you can. So now kind of look at Boston going in next season because I'm assuming they're going to resign him, obviously. And I just kind of think to myself, that's a great move for now and just going forward because you're going to be able to get him probably on like a relatively team-friendly deal. And then another underrated thing they did was they got below the first apron. They are now finally below the apron. They were one of the most expensive teams in basketball last year, which is why you saw
their guys in 24. Yeah. The team got sold. Now they're under the apron again, which is quite nice for them. So,
yeah, bro. They had to do it, but
and I'm happy for Vooch because the guy has not played on a championship caliber team ever in his career. I think he's never even made it past the first round of the playoffs. So
I don't know.
He gets the chance to play some competitive basketball. He's also 35, so I'm happy for him. I think that this is something that he'll really enjoy.
For sure.
And Celtics fans will probably embrace him as they do most of their players, not named Kyrie Irving. Yes.
That's true.
Okay, who's your
So second place winner for me was Washington Wizards. Kind of pretty much everything you said. You get Anthony Davis and Trae Young. First of all, that just tells you so much how the trade market has changed for certain players, especially Trae Young. You gave up CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert for Trae Young. No picks. Trae Young has been one of the best passers in the game. Yes, his shot tendency is not the greatest, but when he is on, he is on.
I mean, he was in Luka conversations.
Yeah, rookie year,
man.
yeah, true. It's been a minute though. Let's calm down. But
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he was an all-star last year.
It's not that he's gotten worse. It's just that
his archetype is kind of
He's just achieved less being on the Hawks, but he's no doubt a great player.
Yeah. When you're not an efficient small guard from a scoring aspect, your value is going to just drop.
Yeah, he's also a terrible defender, but that's not really the point.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I know. You get him for pennies on the dollar by trading CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert's contracts, and then you didn't need to do this. As a Mavericks fan, thank you, DC. But you get Anthony Davis for 2 first-round picks in 3 seconds. Both of the first, which aren't yours. It was an OKC pick and a Warriors pick, which was heavily protected.
Top 20, 2030 Warriors pick and the Oklahoma City pick.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like...
Not valuable.
Yeah, not 100% valuable. If you're a Mavs fan, though, like myself, I'm just happy to get off the contract. But from the Wizards' perspective, you have a path to be a playoff team next year.
Yes.
Even if Anthony Davis gets hurt, like people are like, oh, why would the Wizards do this? AD may get hurt. Here's the thing that people don't understand: the Wizards are currently just such a young team. They can afford to tank AD's contract for the next 2 years because I know he still wants that extension. I don't think it's happening. I don't think they should do it until he can show them he can remain reliable on the floor. I think they shut him down for the year I just saw, which was a great decision in my opinion because let him get healthy. Because when he plays at his peak, he is one of the best players in basketball. He's a gold medalist for a reason on Team USA and all that. But
top 75 player all time.
Oh yeah, NBA 75, shoot. But I just feel like they just have a path forward to the next step of their rebuild. Like, I'm not saying DC's about to be here and go to the championship, but Anthony Davis gets what he wants to play power forward. You get a guy like Trae Young, that's going to be one of the best pick and roll duos in the NBA probably. And then you have him mentoring Alex Sarr, which I think for Sarr is
there
great.
Are people who believe that Alex Sarr is the closest we've seen to Anthony Davis as a player, which I sort of agree with, so I think it'll be good for him.
Yeah.
And I think Alex Sarr has gotten a lot of unfair treatment since his...
Because that one game.
Yeah, that one game
Summer
he
League.
had, but I think this will be good for the Wizards. I already mentioned it, but yes. Yeah. I'm totally with you there.
Yeah, but overall, and if you're a fan just of basketball, like I said, I got friends out there. If I'm a Wizards fan, I'm going to games, win or lose, because I know they're going to at least be entertaining now. You got Trae and Anthony Davis, and I feel like that, just as from a fun aspect, like the Wizards are already like we watch the teams that no one else watches. So the Wizards are not necessarily a good team, but there are some moments where it's like there is some fun basketball.
No, they play some good ball. You know, are they one of the worst teams in the league?
Absolutely,
yes. But they went and beat Detroit last night by a lot. You know, they were pretty much killing them. So that
was without half their rotation.
Yeah, I'm just saying, they got it going. Yeah. They got it going over there.
But despite all that, my biggest winner of the trade deadline is easily the Cleveland Cavaliers. You take Darius Garland, who I am a fan of, but in the past 2-3 years, it's just kind of been the same story. As good as he has just not been able to stay healthy for the Cavs, especially when it comes to the postseason. Like every single time, and it's the same injuries, that it's the same toe. It's like I think they're describing it as kind of like turf toe to a degree. But bottom line, you take Darius Garland, whose contract is the same as James Harden, and flip them. Yes, you get older. Yes, you accelerate your window. But James Harden has been one of the most reliable players in terms of availability in the past couple of years. He's not just getting hurt on a whim. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I think he played 70-plus games last season.
Yeah, he's an available player. And it was highlighted a lot in LA because Kawhi is not an available player.
Yeah. And people are gonna obviously say, and I famously said last year after I put my faith in the Clippers to take the Nuggets out in 7 games, I'm never putting faith in the James Harden team ever again. But I might find myself doing it because even though James Harden is a notorious playoff dropper and everyone talks about it all the time, I just can't help but feel, even if James Harden is off, his pure presence is going to make Donovan Mitchell even better, who's been one of the best playoff risers. He's kind of gotten screwed over a lot by certain situations, whether it's someone got hurt or his teammates have not picked up the slack at times. I'm not saying it's it's all their fault, but there have been so many times when he has left it all on the court and it's just not been enough. And I just think Harden, even as a scoring presence, if he's not there, what he is going to do for Jared Allen and Evan Mobley is going to change their lives. If you're Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, if you hear James Harden is coming to town, you're just thinking, oh, I'm going to have a career year. His ability to get you the ball is just going to take your scoring average just up by a couple points just off pick and rolls alone. But those are my 3 biggest winners. So how about your biggest loser?
Biggest loser, I think, is going to be Giannis. This is my honorable mention. I don't think he's actually a loser. And the reason I say Giannis is because his PR has taken a massive hit. Obviously, say what you will about him sort of teasing us about whether or not he's going to get traded. One of the things that I think is understated and should be stated even more is his partnership with Kalshi. $23 million was traded on the platform for predicting where Giannis was going to go next. And then him not making a move, even though there's an entire market dedicated to predicting which team he's going to go to, and then partnering with Kalshi the next day is not a good look.
And let's not mention, this is coming from someone who like...
That is a bad look.
And this is coming from someone who like likes Giannis overall. That same day, he posts the meme from the Wolf of Wall Street, like, I'm not leaving. I'm not even leaving. And I'm like, so what was the whole point of everything? Because like I'm reading all these reports where you're like, oh, I want to be here. I don't want to be here. Like, I don't think Giannis understands. It's okay to want change, but also it is okay to want to stay too. Like, no one is going to force you and say you need to leave. You have to do this. You have to do that. But it's just, I'm at a point where whenever I see Giannis storylines, I'm just annoyed. I'm like, dude, is something going to happen or not? Like, and I don't understand, and not to like hijack you, I just read a report the Bucks are like going to try in the offseason to bolster their roster, and I just don't see how you build a championship roster right now. And it's not just because they don't have the pieces. This is the worst the East is going to be in recent years. And you were out the playoffs, number one. Number two, Miles Turner's on a pretty big deal. I'm not saying he's a bad fit next year. I actually like the fit. Here's the big problem. You stretched and waived Damian Lillard. If I'm not mistaken, aren't they paying like $20 million for the next like $22 million for like the next 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
So
it's
like
dead money. You can't.
Yeah, that's $22 million you could use to go sign an impact player that you just can't use now for the next 5 years, and your goal is to win championships. And in the era of aprons where you don't want to be above taxes, that just feels like
you need money.
Yeah, so I just don't see a path unless Giannis once again becomes the best player in basketball, and he already is like a top 5 player, but I mean like 2018 LeBron levels of best player in basketball. I don't see anything happening.
No, this team is worse than that team.
No, of course it is.
Yeah, this team is, there is not much to be happy about with this current iteration of the Milwaukee Bucks.
I genuinely couldn't tell you who their second best player is.
Yeah. And
that's not that they don't have some stuff. Like, I like Ryan Rollins. It's just...
Unfortunately, I think it's Kuzma, technically.
No way.
But...
Over Turner and Rollins?
No, I mean, I think Ryan Rollins is playing better ball, but I'm just saying if you were to just consider them as individual players.
I say Turner best, but yeah, my fault. But yeah, who's your other losers?
Oh, yeah, I guess I wanted to say, I think Giannis PR has taken a hit. That's kind of why he's one of my biggest losers. The reason I say that PR is important is it's so apparent with superstars, you know, like if I were to rank PR in order of the top 5 for the top 5 players, I'd say Jokic has the best, then Wemby, then Shea, then Giannis, then Luka. But Giannis had better PR than everybody before this trade saga started.
For sure.
This guy, like, you know, he could do no wrong, you know, and like we know Giannis. He's got some.
He's the Greek freak.
Yeah, he's a little interesting, you know. He does things, but you know, like the Le GM allegations, I fully believe Giannis is that in Milwaukee. Like, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think because of all of this happening and his partnership with Kalshi, you know, I think he's just kind of tanked his PR, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing, but he is a loser at this deadline.
Please stay tuned for more content coming from us very soon.
And check us out on other platforms. We're on Instagram at @pointofattack_podcast.
Thank you.